Good morning. Well, we're all trapped at home for coronavirus, and I'm going to use this as an opportunity to launch a little project that I've intended to do for some time. I am going to do some cooking. I'm going to take you along with me for that. I'm hoping out of this that to teach you guys how to cook a little bit. Good cooking's not hard, and a lot of times when you watch things on cooking shows, part of what they're trying to do is make it look impressive, but there's so much that you can do. You don't need fancy equipment. You watch a cooking show, they'll have a nice gas stove. I've got an old 1970s electric stove. It's going to be fine for this. Nothing fancy required. The fanciest thing I've got to work with today is a non-stick pan. Now, a lot of times when we say French food, you just hear that. I'm not really thinking of this as French cooking. I will cook some French things, but when we hear French food, a lot of the impression of that is formed by kind of the fancy restaurant scene. Well, that's not what I have in mind here. What I have in mind is good, simple stuff that people actually make at home. You can do it. It's not hard. You can eat well, feed your family and friends well, and eat a lot better stuff than that terrible stuff I see you guys eating at school. Noodle cups and Pop-Tarts. Boy, we can do better than that. Today then, I'm going to start with an omelette, one of the classic French dishes that for them is a lunch food. Here, for me in America, I eat it as a breakfast food. That's when I like to eat my eggs. Hey, you can eat it any time of day you want. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let's do it. Classic French omelet. So we're ready to go with an omelet. Let's go ahead and get started. Non-stick pan. I'm going to set the heat kind of medium high. And I'm going to do a 3-egg omelet. 3 eggs right here. I'll just set it out up next to it here just so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to put them straight into the pan. Put them in a bowl. And there we go. 3 eggs. What I'm going to do with these eggs is just beat them real well with a fork. Nothing complicated. What I'm doing, you can see, is I kind of give it a little bit of lift as I flick it back and forth. I really want them to get really, really smooth. I get a little bit of air down into there mixed in. But totally smooth. There should be no unmixed white or yolk. Do that for quite a while, and if you can see, every time I flip it, I'm lifting a little bit, so I get some rotation, so I get some air down in there. Give a little bit more of that in a minute. Right now, let's get the pan ready. All we need over here, our pan's been heating a little bit, and all we need with it is some butter. Boy, that French butter. They are the world's #1 consumers of butter. And so I've just put in some there. It's not a precise measured amount. Get that in there, but we need a pretty good amount. That's what's going to give us our good flavor here. Now, butter's nicely melted. Eggs are just about ready. We don't want to let that butter go too long. We don't want to let it start to brown. Again, as I whisk this, I kind of give it a little bit of an uplift to get some air down in there in the egg mix. I'm just going to pour it in. Now, as this cooks, and it'll start to cook quite quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of keep stirring it a little bit. Now, usually they'll tell you don't use metal on a non-stick pan. Well, as long as you're doing a light touch, there's not really a problem with that. And I'm not digging at it. But here with the fork, what I'm going to do is just kind of scrape around the edges, keep those edges from hardening up, and I'm almost kind of just scrambling it in the pan as it cooks. I want to keep it laid out nice and flat in the pan. Now the liquid, you can see, still quite liquid. I'm going to actually kind of run that around the edges. This, we don't want that to cook real hard. You know, a lot of people will tell you never eat undercooked eggs. That is a bit of a myth. You can eat undercooked eggs. In fact, undercooked eggs are really good. When you hear about people getting sick from eggs, it's not the inside of the eggs that did it to them. It's contamination from outside the egg, especially if you've got chicken poop on the outside of the egg that gets mixed in. That's what's going to make you sick. Not much of a risk with American eggs, which are generally quite well cleaned, and as long as you make sure they're clean, you're not going to have that problem. Now you can see there, it's starting to cook up. You can see that there's a little bit of a shine on it. That's where the egg is still a little wet. And I'm going to keep that up there off the edge. I don't want that to skin up. And now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this. Well, roll it, not really flip it. I'm going to work it down here to the end of the pan, and I'm going to start just kind of rolling it over. I want to do this with a gentle touch because I don't want it to break up. I can scoot it down a little bit more, kind of just roll it up. I can, just like that at that point, kind of leave it folded. You can do this different ways. I'm going to go back to the other end, kind of fold it up over here. And now, as you'll be able to see in a minute, it's still quite creamy inside. I've just kind of folded it over on itself. I am going to put that onto a pan. I'm going to kind of flip it so we get the nice look, that nice look on the top there. You can see how that looks nice and smooth. Now to look at it, here's what we're going to see. I'm going to cut it onto, and if you look at that edge, so you can see that that egg is creamy. That is what's going to make this really, really good. And again, there's no problem with that as long as your eggs were clean. This makes a great breakfast. Eat whatever else you want to eat with it. So, bon appetit, and try it yourself at home.